In the heart of Montgomery, Alabama, a city steeped in history and struggle, courtroom 7 buzzed with a tense silence. Ceiling fans whirred overhead, their steady hum barely masking the rustle of papers and the shifting of seats. At the center of it all sat Judge Eleanor Thompson, a black woman whose gray hair was pulled tightly into a bun, her dark suit understated yet commanding. Known as the steadfast guardian for her unyielding stance against police misconduct, Eleanor had spent 3 decades on the bench, her piercing gaze silencing any who dared challenge her authority. Today, she reviewed a case that had the city on edge. A young black teenager, detained without cause, pushed to the ground by Officer James Carter. But no one expected the chaos about to unfold, a moment that would expose the rot within the justice system and spark a reckoning. The morning session began uneventfully. Eleanor's eyes scanned the file, her face betraying no emotion. James Carter entered, his uniform crisp, badge gleaming, his stride exuding confidence. He was no stranger to scrutiny, having dodged discipline for excessive force multiple times, shielded by a system that valued loyalty over truth. As he took the witness stand, a subtle glance passed between him and another officer in the back row, a fleeting moment unnoticed by most, but caught by Eleanor's trained eye. The air grew heavy, charged with unspoken contempt. Eleanor's voice cut through the silence. "You were present on March 12th, correct?" she asked, her tone steady. James nodded, his responses clipped, mechanical. "I acted on a report of suspicious behavior. The suspect didn't comply, so I used necessary restraint." Eleanor leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "The footage shows the boy was tackled before he could respond. How do you explain that?" James tilted his head, a smirk flickering. "Some things don't show the full picture. It's about the threat you feel in the moment." The courtroom shifted uneasily. The teenager, seated beside his lawyer, stared at James, his fists clenched. Eleanor pressed further, noting discrepancies in James's report, details added after the fact, like a supposed concealed weapon that was never found. "You amended your report post-submission," she said, her voice like steel. "Why?" James's jaw tightened. "I clarified based on memory. It didn't change the case." Eleanor's gaze bore into him. "I'm not here for your defense. I'm here to see how far justice has been trampled." The room froze. James's knuckles whitened, his confidence wavering. Then, in a flash, he reached behind his back, pulling a taser from his belt. "What are you doing?" the court clerk shouted, but it was too late. A sharp crack split the air, a blue arc of electricity striking Eleanor's chest. She convulsed, her body thrown back, collapsing onto the floor. Gasps erupted, chairs scraped, but James stood motionless, his eyes cold, as if daring anyone to act. Panic fractured the courtroom. Attorney Robert Hayes rushed forward, barking orders for an ambulance. Officers hesitated, their allegiance torn. A young woman in the audience, Sarah Mitchell, a freelance reporter, slipped her phone into her pocket, bin recording. Eleanor lay still, her breathing shallow, as the room sank into a stunned silence, the kind that follows when trust in justice is shattered. Eleanor was rushed to St. Margaret's Hospital, her condition critical. The police department issued a vague statement, omitting the taser and Eleanor's role as judge, calling it an incident during duty. Mainstream media followed suit, burying the story under bureaucratic platitudes. But Sarah wasn't done. That night, she received an anonymous video, 10 seconds long, crystal clear, showing James's deliberate act. She knew this could topple the system, but releasing it prematurely risked suppression. She contacted Marcus Hayes, a tenacious lawyer fighting for Eleanor, and together they began unraveling a conspiracy. The video revealed that James hadn't acted alone. A man in the front row, later identified as Harold Vance, a judicial assistant, had nodded subtly, signaling James before the attack. Sarah's discovery of automated censorship, triggered by keywords like Taser and Eleanor Thompson, pointed to a police-controlled data hub. Marcus, digging through archives, found memos signed by Edward Hayes, a retired police strategist with unchecked access, orchestrating trial manipulations for decades. As public outrage grew, fueled by leaked clips and hashtags like Justice for Eleanor, the system doubled down. Sarah faced threats: a scratched car, a chilling note. Silence is cheaper. But she persisted, splitting the video into encrypted parts, sending them to international news outlets. Marcus confronted Edward, who admitted to pushing Eleanor out years ago, fearing her integrity would expose the system's flaws. I thought I was preserving order, Edward confessed, his voice hollow. The turning point came when Thomas Reed, an officer present during the attack, broke ranks. At a packed press conference, he admitted knowing James's intent, having been ordered by Captain Raymond Cole to stabilize the trial if Eleanor pushed too hard. I saw her fall, Thomas said, voice cracking. Her eyes weren't scared, they were asking why I stood silent. His testimony, backed by Sarah's video, forced a federal investigation. The trial was a spectacle. James, now in a suit, remained defiant, betting on the system's protection. But the evidence was overwhelming. The unedited video, Thomas's confession, and Marcus's trove of documents. Eleanor, recovered but resolute, took the bench. "Do you have anything to say?" she asked James. He met her gaze, silent, his defiance crumbling. She sentenced him to 15 years for assault, abuse of power, and coordinated conspiracy, ordering a broader probe into systemic corruption. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor addressed a crowd. "Justice isn't a title," she said, her voice clear. "It's standing when no one else does." A boy offered her a wilted flower. She took it, nodding, and walked through a silent crowd standing in solidarity. The Federal Justice Committee launched Operation Clearview, vowing to review manipulated trials. Marcus joined as an advisor, ensuring no file stayed sealed. The system wasn't dismantled, but its cracks were exposed. Eleanor's nod to that boy wasn't just gratitude, it was a promise that justice, though slow, could prevail when people stood together. What do you think about this story? Have you ever witnessed or experienced injustice that made you question the system? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss how we confront violence and inequality in our lives. Your voice matters.